Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. I hope you have a fantastic day. It's SoulSaint here, and we have another Raid Shadow Legends video. In particular, we're going to have one that's going to be themed around this month and for the foreseeable future's event, Alice's Adventure. And what better way to show it than Alice the Wanderer herself? Now, before we break down her kit and go through the details of whether or not she's good or what to expect from her and, you know, where she's going to place in the world of Teleria, I wanted to show you guys a video of what she looks like. So, I'm going to disappear here for a second. We're going to go ahead and show this. And a big shout out to Player for providing us this information. She looks really, really cool. You see the Drink Me potion on her hip there, along with the I'm late rabbit in the backpack right there. I think that's so cool. With the really long sword, it has I believe a heart in there. Yeah, it does. And I mean, she just looks so serious, so unbothered by the cold weather. I mean, obviously you can kind of tell that she is going to be a Sacred Order related champion. I believe that's what we could see from the background there with all the defeated enemies in the background and this cold frontier. But I mean, like, once again, I mean, you see the checkered leg stockings and then, of course, the inverse of that with the red and the black. And it just looks really, really cool. Now, I do see a key on her neck, and I wonder if that has something to do in particular with it. But we actually don't have to speculate. I actually feel like we can get right into it. So let's break it down. Number one, her A1, which we're going to be going straight into the sword. It's literally called Vorpal Sword. It attacks one enemy 2 times, places an extra hit if the target has any active skills on cooldown. Each hit has an 80% chance, bookable up to 100%, of decreasing the duration of a random buff on the target by 1 turn. So you can technically remove 2 buffs with her A1. It also has additional 20% scaling on the damage side of things. But not only that, Clockwork Cyclone, the A2, it's going to be having to do with... I hope it has something to do with the bunny. It'd be really, really cool animation-wise. But attacks all enemies. It's on a 4-2 cooldown at base. Has a 75% chance of increasing the cooldown of all enemy skills by 2 turns. Not bad. Also has a 75% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 15%. If at least one of the target's skills has its cooldown increased to the max, decrease their turn meter by 30% instead. So not only is she going to be able to provide lockout in terms of cooldown, but she's also going to be able to provide turn meter reduction that is scalable depending on if you can get that cooldown to max. Now, it is bookable up to a 100% chance with the extra 25, and it's going to be on a 3-turn cooldown. That's pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie, most of our lockout champions, I think I want to say, if we're gonna go down into the dirty depths of it, one of the ones who's probably the most consistent when it comes to lockout, consistently, you know, on a much more rotational interval would be Warlord. And his is a 3-turn cooldown, which begs the question, is this going to be pretty good? Now, it does says attack all enemies. It doesn't say before the attack hits that it's going to apply it. So you are still at the mercy of affinity. So like if you're using this ability on someone or a team that's oriented around being force, there is a chance you could weaken, and I think that ultimately means that your event, the lockout of the cooldowns are going to fail on top of that. But nevertheless, though, still a pretty solid 3-turn cooldown when fully booked, ability to lock out somebody and then do turn meter reduction. So really, really strong utility built up into this champion. Queenslayer, the A3 here, it's going to be a 4-turn cooldown, has attack one enemy, will ignore 20% of the target's defense. If the initial target is killed, also attacks the enemy with the lowest HP, will also ignore 20% of the target's defense. Not too bad. You know, ignore percent effects are very, very strong in this game. Being able to also get some, I don't want to say surplus or splash damage in a sense, but kind of similarly, being able to target another opponent on top of that if you're able to kill the initial one. And it's bookable up to a 3-turn cooldown. And it also has another 20% additional damage to go along with it. So not too bad. I could see some really good case scenarios, like, for example, some people who still use Sun Wukong, who likes to sprout himself back up constantly, being able to use Queenslayer to hit him to get the initial kill, but also segueing to hitting someone else, the next one with the lowest HP, gives you a little bit of more versatility of not only being able to take care of Sun Wukong as a problem, but someone else as well. And then, of course, you know, packing a little bit of a decent punch since it ignores percent defense could be pretty valuable. I see some opportunities to go either utility-oriented with the A2 or maybe even with the A3 being able to go more damage-oriented. So, very interesting, very interesting. The passive, Tick-Tock. It's on a 3-turn cooldown. The passive effect is whenever this champion attacks, inflicts 3% bonus damage to each target for each turn remaining on all their active skills cooldowns. The bonus damage is counted individually for each target. So, if you have like 3 abilities that have 2 turns cooldown, that's 2 times 3, times the amount of abilities that got locked out, right? So if you have like 3 skills, you know, that's 3 times 2 times that. And that could add up in terms of percentage for damage, I believe, right? Let's read it one more time just to make sure. Whenever this champion attacks, it inflicts 3% bonus damage to each target for each turn remaining on all their skills cooldown. So if you open up with the A2 and they have 3 abilities, they got put down on 2 turn duration on every single one of them, you know, in terms of the turn, right? So that's 2 times maybe 3 or 4, depending on how many abilities they have. Let's say, for instance, they have 3. So 2 times 3, that's basically 6% more damage. And then times that times 3 in terms of the actual percentage for bonus damage, right? So that can stack up pretty quickly. You got 6, 12, 18% extra damage on that one particular target. Now, I think it scales individually per each one for each target, as it says there. So that's pretty cool. The active effect resets the cooldown of one of this champion's skills each time they kill an enemy. Occurs once per skill. So not only are you able to maybe potentially get a kill on somebody, but then it resets your clockwork cyclone, so you end up doing another lockout where it increases the duration even longer. And then that makes the passive scale even higher. I can see some really crazy synergy. It's almost screaming that you want to get enough accuracy, enough consistency at being able to lock out an opponent, but then after that, you want to follow up with just crazy amounts of damage, because it scales. And that's some really cool, interesting synergies behind it. So not only a utility champion in terms of control, but also just packing a punch the more you go into it. So that can be very overwhelming very, very quickly if you're not careful. In addition to that, she's going to have an aura that increases ally attack in all battles by 30%. Pretty solid. Standard, in terms of like the overall range, is not too bad, actually. It's actually pretty good. I think the highest is probably around the 36 or 35 percentile, percentages wise. And I think maybe like case scenarios where it's a little bit higher for more conditional attack type champions. But this is all battle, a flat 30%, not too bad. I think that's pretty consistent. She's a really, really cool looking champion. Her dynamic of being able to cycle consistently into more control is dangerous. Now, if you were to throw her in tandem with someone who also resets or maybe adds more lockout on top of that, then you can actually complement her kit even more. Like maybe, for example, you're running a lockout with like Crixia or Yumiko, or maybe even that Warlord. She can just go into Queenslayer route the rip and do even more damage. Then follow up on her turn now that everything's kind of like opened up a little bit, add even more lockout. Or you can set up initial lockout on a particular set of champions, maybe mythicals that like to flip so they have more value on their second form, and you lock them out in follow-in subsequence with Alice. So, like, you know, your Yumiko, your Warlord locks out the initial base form of these mythicals. They flip, and then Alice comes in, and she does her job to lock them out even more punishing on top of that. So, really good catch-all, really good versatility. I actually could see some really cool viability of it. What do you guys think? I think this is depending, and I'm just going to give 2 caveats here. One, we still have to be aware of matchups. Obviously, she's magic, so Force Affinity doesn't mind her. Whereas Spirit fears her, right? And of course, Magic would also be very neutral for her, same with Void. That will always exist, but also in tandem with that, depending on her multipliers, is going to be the catalyst of how far you can go with this champion. Now, one thing about her that's kind of hard to rationalize, and you're going to need alternative champions to kind of get into the field with this, would be that we're in like a Stone Skin meta where there's a lot of mitigative preventative measures from you being able to go straight towards the target's heart, or the target's HP in a sense, right? Which allows you to get that cycling effect, the cooldown resets that you're looking for. So, you know, finding a way through Stone Skin is going to be the first problem. Maybe cracking roots could be an example of being able to go through it. But alternatively, you're going to need someone else to help establish that accessibility to their actual raw HP so she can do what she has to do. I think the lockout goes over that. So, like, you don't necessarily need to damage them to do it. But if you're trying to, like, kill somebody with Queenslayer here, you're going to need to make sure you find a way around that Stone Skin or block damage or any other like ways that they're preventing damage towards you, so, or preventing someone from being able to be killed. So I think that's going to be very important. I don't know. I'm actually very excited. I think this is a really cool addition to the Sacred Order team. If you're interested in it, I believe she's going to be accessible. Let's check our notes here. She's going to be accessible as a part of the new champion. Let me see here. She's going to be the loyalty champion, the loyalty program. So you're going to everybody's going to be able to get access to her. So she's going to be available starting on January 8th, and will last, phase 1 wise, will last 14 days. So if you're familiar with Skeletor or the Loki events where we were able to acquire those champions over just the course of time of logging in, she's going to be one of those type of champions. And you're also going to be able to acquire, I believe, her blessing subsequently after that initial first phase. So going into phase 2, farming and doing stuff, activities in the game will net you flags or something associated to maybe the Alice adventure, and you'll be able to grab some additional rewards with her from there. So that's going to be really, really cool. I think this is going to be a great champion for people who are looking for lockout or damage outlets. I mean, this could potentially be a really good game changer for a lot of folks. So you guys let me know. Are you excited for this champion? I think this is a W. I think this is a good one. Everybody's going to be able to get it, so everybody's going to have lockout. Oh, Lord. All right, with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And as always, always remember, stay ascended.